Welcome to Nevada Week. I'm Amber Renee Dixon. The Oakland Athletics announced a, quote, binding agreement, end quote, to buy 49 acres north of Allegiant Stadium from Red Rock Resorts. And on that land, the A's plan to build a baseball stadium, reportedly worth $1.5 billion, $500 million of which they reportedly hope to get in public funding. Joining us to talk about that prospect and whether an A's relocation here is worth it to Southern Nevada are Howard Stutz with the Nevada Independent, which first reported on the land deal, Mick Akers, sports, business, and transportation reporter for the Las Vegas Review-Journal, and Steve Karp, Las Vegas columnist for the Sporting Tribune. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Real quickly from each of you, how sure of a thing do you think this is, this relocation to Las Vegas by the A's? Howard, I'll start with you.
Got a coin, we can flip it in the air and see. It's really now dependent on the legislative process, getting the bill through, as you said, for this $500 million in public money. We're taping Thursday morning. The bill may drop to this afternoon or maybe Friday, we don't know. Dave Kaval, the president of the A's, was in the legislature yesterday with his consultants and lobbyists and Jeremy Aguero to talk to the Democratic side of this leadership about this. So it's really going to depend on that. I think that's the key right there.
And real quick, Aguero, his role in this?
Jeremy's from Applied Analysis is the financial consultant, kind of looking at the economics of this whole thing, and he's the one who's really been talking the most about the tax package.
And promoting that this would be a good thing. Mick, how sure of a thing is this?
I've always been 50-50 this whole way, but now that they have at least a site, I think it maybe shifts more to 60-40, 70-30. $500 million obviously is the hindering point here, so you kind of have to wait and see what happens there. But I think just saying that we have a site in Southern Nevada now, it makes it a little bit more real, but obviously still a lot of hoops to jump through to get to actually putting shovels into the ground.
And Steve?
I think it gets done, but not without some hand-wringing first on both sides of it. Because, as Mick said, $500 million is a lot of money. And how are they going to come up with it? I'm not a big fan of corporate welfare, if you will. And when you're talking about a billionaire like John Fisher, he should be able to foot the bill for his own ballpark, much like Bill Foley and AEG footed the bill for T-Mobile Arena. The only thing they asked the public for was Clark County to help out a little bit with the infrastructure around the arena. And this Wild Wild West site, a lot of that infrastructure should already be in place, right? From when they had the casino. So it shouldn't be $500 million worth of infrastructure.
Let's go back to the land aspect. Howard, I mentioned in the intro that it is a, quote, binding agreement that the A's are saying, but how binding is it really?
Well, Red Rock Resorts hasn't disclosed the purchase price. They're not, because the deal hasn't closed yet. It's pretty much contingent closing on, getting the tax package through the legislature. One analyst estimated it was about $150 million is probably what the cost to the A's for the site. We have a story in the Independent that posted this morning, Thursday morning, that says one of the sites that the A's were looking at, they were looking at like 20 different sites around the valley in the last 2 years. They kind of settled on the festival grounds at the north end of the Strip, and they also were looking at the Rio. The Rio offered them about 20 plus acres for $1. In other words, this is all you need to pay for the land. Go ahead and then go out and get what you need for the rest of it. It probably would have reduced the tax package they're seeking right now from the legislature. Maybe, we don't know, but that's a speculation on it. So we'll see where they go from here. But as Steve said, the lawmakers they're going to try to figure out a way. They're going to twist themselves into such pretzels, trying to figure out a way to approve this deal, but not looking like they're giving a handout to the A's. And the tax package is very different it's similar but different from Allegiant Stadium. Remember, Allegiant Stadium is $750 million in room tax money. So that means anytime you rent a room on the Strip, or hotel room on the Strip, like a small portion of that goes toward a tax goes toward Allegiant Stadium. This will just be a tax on, almost like a user tax on everything that's on this 49 acres. The stadium, the entertainment district, they're going to build around with the restaurants and retail and whatnot. So that's where the tax will come from. It's just from people paying to do whatever on that site.
In the special tax district.
Right.
So, Steve, I would ask you the news that Howard broke. What does it indicate about if the A's did deny this $1 deal to get land, instead opting for perhaps $150 million? What does it show about their priorities?
I think it says that they like the proximity of the Wild Wild West site as it pertains to a sports district area. You're a mile south of Allegiant, or north of Allegiant Stadium, you're a mile west of T-Mobile Arena. And so you have this like triangle, if you will, of sports facilities.
Right.
And I could even maybe include Michelob Ultra Arena at Mandalay Bay if I wanted to. You know, it's the home of the WNBA Aces. My thought is they must have obviously felt there were several built-in advantages to building on the Wild Wild West site compared to building on the real, whether it's traffic patterns, access. You know, they're trying to get the Tropicana I-15 interchange redone. Perhaps there's a way where people could go from there to the ballpark without too much grief. Although, honestly, I don't know how you guys feel. The idea of being a tourist from Kansas City or Detroit or wherever, and your team's playing the A's in the new ballpark in the middle of July and it's 116 out, are you really walking from your hotel to the ballpark? No, you're probably taking Uber or Lyft.
And Mick, I think that is a concern, the parking aspect. Where are people going to park? And then are they walking, or how are they getting to this potential stadium?
Probably be similar to the Allegiant Stadium setup. They have Hacienda Bridge to walk over from the Strip. Dave Cavill told me that they're potentially looking at building a bridge across the 15 pedestrian from T-Mobile to the potential A's Stadium. Obviously, with that Tropicana I-15 project, they also have a new access point for pedestrians to access T-Mobile Arena from the Tropicana Bridge, so that's going to be in place. That can also be a pretty big factor in it. Mm-hmm. They also have additional 8 acres of land, an option to buy that, and I would assume that would be if they say, hey, we need some more land for parking once they get their plan together. So just looking at Allegiant, much bigger. They figured it out there. It took a little bit, but people complained about it, and they still will. But I think just the way that Las Vegas is set up with the tourism and all that, you don't need as much parking as just any other city with a ballpark.
Okay, so it's Thursday morning. There is about a month and a week left in the legislative session. There needs to be a bill that the A's would submit, and that needs to get through this session. It has yet to be submitted as of this taping, but Mick, what do we know about political support for what is being proposed, this tax district?
Yeah, everyone's just been pretty non-committal. They'll just say, we would love to have a new sports team and a new facility in Las Vegas, but we haven't seen the exact bill, so we can't really comment on that. So it seems like everyone said pretty much the same thing. I've gotten quotes from probably like a dozen lawmakers and
on both sides of the aisle.
So, and they're all saying the exact same thing. So I think once you see what they're asking and some of the stipulation behind it, I think that's when you start getting the real opinions, and then that's when we'll get the real story behind what this is going to be, the $500 million, and if there's anything else in there.
Have you heard anything, Howard?
Same as Mick. I mean, if everybody's taking a kind of a wait and see approach, sure, they'd love to see the A's here. They'd love to see Major League Baseball here. As Steve said, that is, where the site is, it will be like a sports entertainment district. You think about other cities that have those type of districts with all these stadiums. So it makes so that's why I think they like that. Look, it's got to be accessible to the local crowd. 70% of the fans going to this game are going to be locals. As Steve said, not going to be a lot of, they say they're going to get a lot of tourists, but we'll see if that happens.
Well, that's what Jeremy Aguero with Applied Analysis says. 70% locals, 30%
tourists.
visitors.
Are the 70% coming to root for the A's, though? Okay, all right, they're playing the Diamondbacks.
I'm from Arizona,
on a Wednesday
that's why
night,
you bring
you're
it
a
up.
Diamondbacks fan. You have a newborn son. Are you taking him to the game when he's 7 or so, and he knows what baseball is as an A's fan, or is he going to be a Diamondbacks fan?
I would imagine an A's fan because it's his hometown.
So we're talking about developing a generation of fans. This is what the Raiders are dealing with right now. their fan base in Las Vegas is somewhat limited. They haven't converted people over from rooting for whatever NFL team they rooted for before the Raiders came here to now rooting for the Raiders. But the Raiders are trying, through getting into the community, they're trying to develop that generation of Las Vegas Raider fans through kids and clinics and things like that. So the A's are going to have to maybe be patient, develop their fan base here in Las Vegas to root for them.
Howard?
What could help in this is what we haven't discussed is where the A's going to play until the stadium is actually built. They're talking about 2027 season is when it would start. So, they could play in at least maybe 2, maybe even next season at Las Vegas Ballpark, trying to share it somehow with the Aviators. I still trying to figure out how that's going to work out. But at that point, now you're starting to build a little bit of a fan base. And that's a wonderful facility, by the way, for a AAA ballpark, Las Vegas Ballpark. So I think that could be one way they can start building that fan base.
But here's the thing. You have their AAA team already playing here in Las Vegas. Right. So the fans who go to Aviator games, they're familiar with these players who get called up to Oakland.
A very good point.
Yeah. So they will have a built-in base to a degree, okay? But Howard's a Dodger fan, I'm a Yankee fan. We're not going to the ballpark to root for the A's. When we go, we're going to root for our teams. Now, Howard has a partial season ticket to the Aviators, so he kind of roots for the Las Vegas Aviators. Will you root for the Las Vegas Athletics, though?
Not when they play the Los Angeles Dodgers, I'll
there
tell
you
you that.
Go. See?
I want to go back to the 70-30 that is being proposed as the attendance at the potential A's stadium. Is that what ended up happening with the Raiders? Because that was what originally was proposed.
At first they said, hey, we expect about 27% of fans to be from out of the market. Now it's ended up more like 50-something%. You go to some of these games, especially like the Chiefs and the 49ers last season, and half of the stadium at least was, in red. So people point it out every time too. So, and there is also fans that come from Northern and Southern California. There are Raiders fans too that are part of that. But people always just focus on the opposing team, calling it, not really a home field advantage.
Right.
It probably won't be as drastic with Major League Baseball, but they'll still get some of those good, like Yankees come to town. You're going to get more than that because I think that's going to be like an average. So it's about 5,000 per game if you break it down with the 81 games. So it's not always going to be 5,000 every game visiting fans, but some of those bigger games that draw more than that, I think could play into that and actually meet that quota that they've been kind of pushing.
Well, it's like. You're from Phoenix.
Yes.
I've been to a Dodgers Diamondbacks games in Phoenix, and a couple of years ago, and it was, I want to say it was more than half the stadium was Dodger fans. So I mean that may be what we'll see here for a time. Steve, I know wants to point this out. The A's have to get better as a franchise.
There we go.
And that will be one key to try to to build a fan base here.
You took my job from me for a moment. Yes. We really want the A's here.
Not when their payroll's $60 million, I don't. I mean, we already have a AAA team in Vegas. Why do we need 2? Because if John Fisher is not going to spend money to put a competitive ball club on the field, what's the point?
John Fisher is the owner. Can you tell us more about him?
Well, they have the lowest payroll in all of Major League Baseball. It's $60.7 million, all right? Baltimore, which is number 29, is almost $65 million. So we're talking a $5 million gap. So you're talking about, what, a middle infielder maybe, or a corner outfielder who could get paid $5 million and everything. The median of Major League Baseball payroll is $160 million. So the A's are nearly $100 million below the median. The Mets, who are number 1, which is shocking when you think about what the Yankees have spent over the decades, the Dodgers, the Red Sox, the Cubs. The Mets have the highest payroll in all of baseball, $346 million. Max Scherzer, one of their pitchers, makes almost as much as the entire A's payroll, for God's sake. Now, if you're looking at this as a fan, and the A's move to Las Vegas, and you know that they're going to be playing less than 400 baseball over the course of a summer, where's the incentive to go to the game? Especially when the prices are going to be double, maybe triple what you pay to go see the AAA Aviators, who may be playing almost as good a brand of baseball.
Okay, right now, as of this taping, the Oakland A's are 5-20. They are the worst team in all of Major League Baseball. However, MLB Commissioner Mr. Manfred, he makes an argument that they may become more competitive if they do move to Las Vegas. How so?
Well, he noted that A's ownership has spent over $100 million in Oakland trying to get their stadium deal out there over the years, and he said that's made it more limited for them on the payroll side. So, if you go by that, if they're not spending money on something that's not going to happen anymore, and they have some more cash flow for players, potentially yes. But once the novelty of having a new ballpark here wears off, you're going to have to be competitive, or else you're not going to be filling the seats, and then that's going to be less tax money going into their $500 million if they get that. So they have to be competitive when they get here, especially fund that stadium.
Is there potential for them to make more money here though than they are making in Oakland?
You would think, although the media market in the Bay Area is number 4 in the nation or something, but they're not a factor in that market. The Giants are the dominant team when it comes to baseball in the Bay Area, okay? Here, Vegas is the 40th largest media market in the country, so I don't know what kind of deal they can get with a regional sports network. I mean, we're seeing these
Naming
RSNs
rights.
all over the country struggling, right?
That question also, this media, you came out of TV news, I think, with streaming, everything's on streaming services, everything's on cable. I don't know how important being the size of the media market matters anymore.
Okay.
So with this,
What about with naming rights for the stadium?
somebody's gonna jump in. I mean, Allegiant jumped in, Allegiant Airlines, T-Mobile. So this will get a naming
that's
right.
not going to be an issue. The issue is going to be long-term, is this team willing to be competitive and put a product on the field that people will want to pay good money to see? The Golden Knights from day one have spent money to put a good team on the ice. All right, they made it to the Stanley Cup final in their first year. They've not been shy to go after the big fish, if you will. Bill Foley has always been willing to spend the money. John Fisher has not shown any
Will you tell us
interest
more
whatsoever.
about John Fisher and his background?
But I'm just saying, all right, the guy's a developer, but Bill Foley wasn't a hockey
And
guy.
his parents started the Gap, correct?
Yeah.
The clothing.
Okay, which
Yeah.
is fine. You don't have to be a baseball guy to understand.
But he has money, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, he does. I mean, otherwise he wouldn't own the team.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people who wish he would sell it and just, stay in Oakland. And there have been a lot of people pushing that idea. I don't think that's happening. I think he's staying with it, and I think it's going to happen here. But the big question will be, are they going to be willing to spend money? And they don't have to spend like the Mets and the Dodgers and the Yankees and the Red Sox, but they certainly need to spend more than they're spending now.
Which is against what they have historically done. But the last question that I want to ask you, because we are running out of time, why should Las Vegas want this when, as you have reported, Stutz, Clark County and the state aren't going to see any tax dollars directly from the stadium for at least 30 years?
Right, and why Las Vegas wanted it would be probably just to have the Major League Baseball,
Just to have it.
Be one of the cities, because I think we're going to get the NBA in 3 years with this new arena south of town, the Oakview Arena. So be one of the few cities with all 4 Major League franchises, teams. So I mean, we may see MLS here at some point. So I mean, that's why it's a status.
And an arena, by the way, which will be privately financed by the Oakview Group.
Right.
The people who built the Islanders Arena at Belmont Park and built Climate Pledge Arena in Seattle, which is a spectacular building where the Kraken play. So I agree totally with Howard that the NBA is probably more in line with what people in Las Vegas want over Major League Baseball.
Real quick, Mick, what happens if the A's do not get this $500 million?
You figure they go back to Oakland and knock on the mayor's door and be like, hey, you want to strike this conversation back up? Because I think that's the last resort there.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time.